So we're kicking off the year tackling one of the big questions. What is Web3? If you spend any amount of time in the blockchain and crypto space, you will find yourself required to develop an extremely thick skin. The attacks come from everywhere, and they're vicious. So we become adept at framing our worldview in simple, defensible concepts. And then we memeify them. And then we go to war. But while most of the concepts we explore here are very, very good at pissing people off all around the world, nobody's ever really been that bothered about the concept of Web3. It's always felt like the grand vision that makes all the hand-wringing and cognitive dissonance worthwhile. But all that changed a few days before Christmas when Jack Lightning Bolt called into question the very soul of Web3 itself, reducing it to a simple meme and provoking reply guys from all over blockchain to tweet a technicolour torrent of outrage in the vain hope that Mr. Lightning Bolt would take the bait, which of course he didn't. Jack, let's not forget, is one of the wizards of Web 2, and his barbs drew the ire of another of the Web 2 legends, Mark Andreessen, who famously forgot to bring shoes to his Time magazine shoot. Cue handbags, rage quitting, and peak public cancellation. Jack was now officially banned from Web 3. Now everybody got proper angry about this because, well, they knew Jack was wrong. You know he's wrong. We all know he's wrong. How dare Jack, this Web 2 dinosaur with his magnificent beard, challenge the magnificence of Web 3? Many were quick to highlight the fair launch of the Uni and ENS tokens and defend the honorable VCs like Delphi Digital doing God's work in the space. But the uncomfortable truth is that Jack is probably mostly right. Now, Uni, ENS, Delphi Digital, these are the exceptions that prove the rule. And that's fine, because they're also a light to point the way. And so it was left to Kobe to pull the argument back to where it actually makes the most sense. Rather than pointless public spats about who does or doesn't own Web3, he preferred to ask, WTF Web3 even is? So I read all this stuff, and if there's one thing I took away from all of the commentary on Jack, it was that everybody seems to be just wrong about Web3, or at least unable to separate the meme version, which is the one Jack Dorsey's attacking, from what I think is the true definition. And even worse, they become so frenzied about attacking those that seem to be attacking them that it all descends into he shed, she shed, he shed, You see, I can't even say it. So in this episode, I'm going to keep it simple, take it back to first principles, because Web3, it really isn't that hard, and yet absolutely nobody seems to get it. So stick around if that's what you came here for, because if you didn't already know, this is the Defiant. So let's go back to origins, and it doesn't get more original than Bitcoin, the OG. And in Kobe's post, he shows the results of 2 polls asking whether Bitcoin should be considered Web 3. And the results are kind of surprising. But if no one can even agree on what Web 3 actually is, then why are we getting so frothy about who owns it? But this is about the memey Web3 Silicon Valley VC bro shill piece connected to everything in crypto that isn't Bitcoin. And y'all know already how y'all Bitcoin is going to max y'all up. But ask yourself, do you have a handy definition for Web3 when the maxis come for you? And they surely will. And while you think on that, let's hear from the people about whom there can be no debate, because they are, of course, our sponsors. Zerion is mission control for Web3, giving users the ability to trade DeFi tokens, transfer assets across chains, and show off their NFT collections all in one place. Zerion offers a multi-chain experience with asset tracking and trading across 7 networks, including Polygon, Optimism, Arbitrum, and BSC, so you'll never miss an opportunity waiting on gas fees to drop. NFT owners can also see their favorite collectibles and art as widgets on their iPhones or Apple Watches and send them to friends and family in a few clicks. Users can explore every corner of the metaverse with Zerion from their web, desktop, and mobile apps. So head to zerion.io to connect your wallet and get started today. When you shop for plane tickets, you probably use Kayak, Expedia, or Google to compare ticket prices, so why would you limit yourself to just one exchange when you trade crypto? When you make your trades, you want to make sure you're getting the best possible price, and that's why you should be using Matcha. Matcha routes your orders across all the various DeFi exchanges on Ethereum, Polygon, BSC, Phantom, and Avalanche, and gives you the best possible prices without taking any commissions. Matcha has smart order routing that splits your order across multiple liquidity sources. It also allows you to make limit orders on chain so you can set and forget your DeFi trades. New to Matcha is an integrated fiat on-ramp so you can purchase crypto directly with your credit or debit card and have that fiat be instantly traded for any token that has liquidity. Head over to matcha.xyz/Defiant and connect your wallet to start trading. Nexo.io is a trusted and easy-to-use crypto lending and exchange platform where you can buy cryptocurrencies at the touch of a button and start earning up to 17% annual interest that's paid out daily. They support all of the major assets on the market, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Polygon, and Polkadot, and allow you to swap one asset for another with lightning speed. With Nexo, you can buy crypto with your Visa and MasterCard credit or debit card instantly and start earning on your digital assets right away. You can also borrow cash and stablecoins tax efficiently against your digital assets without selling them. Nexo complies with the highest security standards and is audited in real time, which is why nearly 3 million people in over 200 countries trust the platform with their digital assets. So whether you're just getting started or you're a seasoned pro, get the most out of your crypto today at nexo.io. So let's just get to it. The Bitcoin maxi vitriol leveled at Web3 might make more sense when you learn that the phrase itself was actually coined by Gavin Wood, co-founder of Ethereum all the way back in 2014. That's Ethereum, not Bitcoin. And thanks here to CoinDesk who reposted it this week. Now it starts from a key assumption that large organizations and governments routinely attempt to stretch and overstep their authority. And it's important that we contextualize this as a post-Snowden world. And it's also important that we recognize that Web 2, in its pure form, is not a bad thing. And probably the best example of Web 2 is Wikipedia. There are no financial incentives for anyone to contribute and edit articles, and yet they do, and Wikipedia is amazing. Now, the exploitation by big tech and governments, that's what's bad. So Web 3 really is less evolution than reimagination of all the services we currently use, building from this assumption that no government or organization can reasonably be trusted. Information that we assume to be public, we publish. Information we assume to be agreed upon, we place on a consensus ledger. Information that we assume to be private, we keep secret and never reveal. Communication always takes place over encrypted channels and only with pseudonymous identities as endpoints, never with anything traceable, such as IP addresses. So to get to this idea of Web3, Gavin proposes 4 pillars: publication, or a decentralized information system; messaging, an identity-based pseudonymous low-level messaging system; consensus, all blockchains use some form of consensus, but at the heart of it is the idea that nodes can agree on state without there needing to be a central authority; and finally, a front end or a browser or something like that. And Mark Zuckerberg's version of the metaverse is really just a dollied up version of that front end. And that's it. This was written in 2014, 1 year after Snowden released thousands of classified NSA documents to journalists in Hong Kong.
For now, know that every border you cross, every purchase you make, every call you dial, every cell phone tower you pass, friend you keep, site you visit, and subject line you type is in the hands of a system whose reach is unlimited, but whose safeguards are not. In the end, if you publish the source material, I will likely be immediately implicated. I ask only that you ensure this information makes it home to the American public. Thank you, and be careful.
2013 was also the year Cambridge Analytica opened its offices, but it was a full 5 years before the data scandal broke.
Their targeting tool was considered a weapon.
There is a possibility that the American public had been experimented on.
And that's relevant because at no point in Gavin's post does he talk about ownership or value or all the things that we now talk about in connection with Web3. But post-Cambridge Analytica, the Web3 idea rapidly transforms into this idea of the internet of value, with its citizens self-sovereign and full control of their data and the value to be derived from it. Now, Gavin actually picked up his Web3 idea that very same year in a new blog post entitled Why We Need Web 3.0. And he articulates the painful thought that digital technology magnifies and accelerates the true character of human beings in real-life society. So the fearful become more fearful, tyrants become more tyrannical, the greedier become greedier, and all at a rapidly accelerating pace. If you audit your own experience online, or in Discord, or in Telegram, or wherever, you'll find that this is absolutely on point. And so Gavin arrives at a new expression. He says, consider Web 3.0 to be an executable Magna Carta, the foundation of the freedom of the individual against the arbitrary authority of the despot. Now here is the Magna Carta. It was written in 1215, and it was the first document to put into writing the principle that the king and his government was not above the law, and it sought to prevent the king from exploiting his power and place limits of royal authority by establishing law as a power in itself. So this is not a new problem. This is the human condition, and again, no discussion of ownership in Gavin's post, but maybe that's just a given. The overwhelming preoccupation here is with combating overreaching authority by those who repeatedly fail to justify their suitability to wield such power. And this is why Jack's tweets are worth taking seriously, or at the very least, debating. Because it's clear he does not have an issue with Gavin's version of Web3, quite the opposite. His beef is with the meme version of it, with VCs and the faux, "We're here to make the world a better place, yo!" rhetoric. ICOs briefly enabled retail investors an opportunity to invest in tech startups in ways that had been, and still are, denied them. But once that ended, these tech startups went back to the VCs again, and the old dance continued. Many became unfathomably rich in 2021, a prize for being prescient or just plain lucky. Now you only have to look at the way the curve wars have played out, that the familiar routines of power consolidation, monopolization, and cartel behavior are being repeated ad nauseum. So no, Jack is not wrong. But we can now clearly see that Bitcoin absolutely does belong in Web3. In fact, it's as clear an example of it as it's possible to get. Now, a quick digression. Interestingly, the phrase Web3 was actually briefly applied to the semantic web as proposed by Tim Berners-Lee back in 1999. And he envisaged a web in which computers become capable of analyzing all the data on the web, the content, links, and transactions between people and computers. A semantic web which makes this possible, he said, is yet to emerge. But when it does, the day-to-day mechanisms of trade, bureaucracy, and our daily lives will be handled by machines talking to machines. The intelligent agents people have touted for ages will finally materialize. A16C says, software is eating the world. We're hearing about lawyers' jobs being taken away, the middle class having their jobs taken away by machines. So we probably aren't far away from this now. But remember, Tim Berners-Lee is the founder of the World Wide Web, and his original vision of that is far closer to Web 3 than it is to Web 2. He too became deeply troubled by the overreach of governments and big tech and founded Inrupt, a technology company designed to give individuals more power to return to the web that I originally wanted, in a system designed to protect personal data sovereignty. So we can think of technology as a mechanism for opening up privileges to its users, much like you would grant privileges to kids. Human beings on the whole are really, really good at abusing privileges. If opportunity is there, it will be exploited, just like my ability to exploit the word privilege. Once this goes too far, then corrective action is required. And this is why Web 3 feels odd. It's corrective action for Web 2, and it assumes Web 2 is bad, which for me is reductive. But it also brings us to another major problem. We all know regulation is coming. Stablecoins are being discussed in Congress. Elected and non-elected bodies are gathering to decide how all this should be divvied up and made safe for you, the great unwashed. And many wise heads nod sagely and tell us, this is how it must be. We must play nice with regulators. But if the central tenet of Web 3 is that no government or organization can reasonably be trusted, then allowing them to dictate the terms is a return to everything that was problematic to begin with. And before you go getting all Bitcoin maxi on me, let's just go there a moment. Blockchain attempts to solve for trustlessness by introducing game theoretic incentives, and those incentives, they're financial. And because those incentives are financially viable, we have all of this. And because we have all of this, the regulators are all over us. And because the regulators are all over us, Web 3, as Gavin imagined it, cannot happen. Therefore, it's a meme, and therefore, Jack is right. And you may not care because Gaines is, but however you spin it, the moment financial incentives are applied, Web 3 goes out of the window because there's no path you can draw from that mechanism that doesn't involve regulation. And I come back to Wikipedia here because, like I said, there's no wiki token. It just exists as a public good. But just like ENS and Uni, It's the exception that proves the rule. And even worse, regulators operate under a lowest common denominator kind of thinking. One person might be a terrorist, but we don't know who. So we must treat everyone as if they are a terrorist until we can be sure that they are not. It's like when a teacher at school punishes a whole class because one dipstick decides to write the word twat on the board. Web3, it isn't hard to understand. Blockchain, decentralization, all of this stuff, it's an attempt to deliver it, but it's not Web3 itself. The thing is, the way it's structured around financial incentives means it can never fulfill its purpose as long as regulatory bodies exist. So if we're being honest, I think the best we can say is that Bitcoin, blockchain, crypto, everything we have right now isn't Web3. It's Web 2.5. And on that terrifying thought, I shall leave you to the memes and the assassins and the cognitive dissonance. But hopefully this brought some sanity and simplicity to your Web3 thinking. As always, drop us your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for subscribing. We're here all week with deep dive tutorials and other idiocy. And if you needed reminding, yes, this was the Defiant.